So the typical, do you sort of have a profile of how these are being used? Is this kids going, a bunch of the college kids piling on and going out to a local bar, or somebody
Well,
running to go buy furniture at the local,
uh,
furniture store? So
no, not furniture. We hope it's not so much going to bars because we don't want to have drinking and driving. So and actually to discourage that, we have a 11 p.m. curfew on our vehicles. But
okay, all right,
not to say that someone might not drink before that, but certainly nothing good happens after midnight, as they say, and
right,
uh, especially when you're in this kind of business. So.
yeah,
Um, Yeah, I mean, we think Uber's great because Uber can take care of those folks. They can
right,
pick up the folks from the bars. But yeah, no, the typical profile. It's interesting because we have found, our target market is when we started this, we thinking, the millennials are going to be all over this. Well, the millennials, as has been well documented, don't really have a great deal of love for the automobile, and
right,
like we did. I mean, for us, it was our freedom, and for them, it's their phones,
right,
and but they're almost ambivalent about transportation. I mean, it's like, it's funny. You'll drive this car down the road, and a millennial, will be so busy looking at their phone they won't even notice you. Whereas somebody that's our age will look up and go, "Wow, look at that! That's radical." And
yeah, yeah,
so um, we actually have quite a bit of interest among the older folks. So, but yeah, as far as the college kids, it's a little early to tell how much it's going to catch on with that crowd because, like I said, most of them are on summer break. We do have a few using it, but uh, it's going to take a while. We sort of are still actually getting our marketing concepts developed, and so yeah, I can't really tell you. Probably check back with me in 6 months.
okay, all right. Well, I
Uh,
mean, you've only been going for a month, so so that's certainly understandable. What have
right.
been some of the operational issues at this point? Then people running them out of charge, crashing into another vehicle, mechanical issues. The messaging service doesn't work. I mean, what
Yeah.
are some of the headaches
Well,
that you've had?
we don't have any. We haven't had any accidents.
Good.
We we do have an occasional technical problem with communications, like just about anybody does. But
Yeah.
I wish SMS was 100%, but it's not. So we let's see. It takes some education of the people of how to drive the vehicles. Obviously, they're a little different. The quality of the vehicles is pretty good, but it's not what it needs to be. I mean, we think we're starting off at the low end, and we hope that as our business grows, that we will be able to sort of improve the quality of the vehicles, not necessarily by changing vehicles, but by getting the manufacturers. It's been kind of this is new for the manufacturers too. I mean,
Right.
and I think that there is some hesitation on the part of some of the manufacturers to really embrace the idea of using low-speed EVs in an urban environment. But most of the activity for the low-speed EV industry has been in the suburban and golf course communities and the retirement
Right.
communities. It's a lot different environment, and so we think that there are different design needs and different values that come into play in the urban environment, and so we haven't quite. It's even though the vehicles are mature and at scale mechanically, in terms of styling and fit and finish, they're really sort of in their infancy in some ways.
Right,
So,
right. Well, they were designed for really kind of a different utilization. Well,
yeah,
let's sort of talk a little bit about that then, because you mentioned the fact with China, and of course those are the low-speed electric vehicles have, at least from reports that we're hearing, have really, I think in 2013, I heard the number something like 200,000. Last year, somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe in excess of 400,000. These vehicles, they're very rapidly beginning to surpass, the what we considered, our leadership role in low-speed electric vehicles. Which, in this case, I'm going to include the electric golf cars because
yeah, sure,
that's they essentially with the exception of GEM, which was designed to be specifically that class of vehicle, most of the other vehicles were just essentially scaled up. In fact, maybe just tell it, who are you using for your vehicles then?
Yeah, we are using a Cushman / E-Z-Go product,
Okay.
which is a, as you said, it was scaled up from the golfing industry, and of course Cushman's been around, more of an industrial product, but we actually use a Cushman product, although Cushman and E-Z-Go are merged, and essentially the car is pretty much made by E-Z-Go and labeled by Cushman. But
Right.
anyway, that's one of our vehicles. The other vehicle is by J&H Global out of South Carolina. So we have an Augusta company and a South Carolina company, and J&H Global makes their car is called a Star Excel, and it's actually manufactured in part in China, and then final assembly is done in the U.S. So, yeah, they're different cars. They have different handling characteristics and different sort of, I don't know. I'm not sure what the Chinese overall LEV market is like, or NEV market is like, but they're definitely sort of a different kind of level of, I don't know, just sort of a different way they approach manufacturing, I think.
Well, we should probably, for people that aren't familiar with neighborhood electric vehicles and the regulations, obviously we have the safety features that have to be on the vehicle. In addition to that, there are some regulatory issues with respect to top speed. The vehicle has a top speed of 25 miles an hour.
Right.
And then within states, there is a requirement that they, depending on where you're at, I think some states actually allow them to be on roads with 40, 45 miles an hour, but most states have sort of limited them to 35, I'm sorry, 35, streets with 35 miles per hour or slower speed. So is that, and I noticed in looking at the map of Fayetteville, there were a couple of streets it looked like that were restricted, that people could not drive your vehicles on.
Yeah, and those are restrictions that we self-imposed. They haven't been imposed by the city. We have done that simply because we are being cautious. Insurance is a big expense for us, and we certainly want to get it reduced. And we're hoping that we have a great track record so far. We want to keep it that way, but. Fayetteville's pretty hilly, so if you take a 35 mile per hour road with a 10% uphill gradient, your car's not going to be doing 25. It's going to be doing 20 or something.
Right.
And so you put a 20 mile per hour vehicle with a 35 or 40 mile per hour vehicle. That's not a good combination.
Right.
So we avoid this. Basically, the issue really is, what is your speed differential? What is the prevailing speed of traffic versus what is the speed of the low speed vehicle, and if it's 10 miles or greater, then it's probably not a good situation. So we try to avoid those. We're fine with 35 if it's a flat road or if it's relatively flat. But if you're 35 going up a hill, that's not a good combination for us.
Right, and obviously, I think again, looking at the map, you've set some sort of boundaries for where you can and cannot. Take the vehicles. Obviously, they're within a certain, and it looks like, I don't know, what was it, maybe a 5 mile radius or something like that?
Right, roughly 5 miles, yeah. And so we have, for instance, Interstate 49 basically provides a barricade that we can't get across.
Okay.
On the west side, and on the north we have another interstate. So basically, Fayetteville does not have a completed ring around it, but it does have interstates on 2 sides, 2.5 sides, I guess. So that basically, we basically can't get past that, and so we have about 4 miles around the university, any direction, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does weather impact this? Now, obviously, these are all covered, so they're not necessarily open vehicles, but I assume that you're not that far south that you don't get maybe frost every now and then, and it gets cold.
Oh,
So again, that's an issue you'll have to, I assume, deal with moving forward, which comes into the whole question of the design of the vehicle. So let me talk to you about, you're beginning to get a sense of experience with these. If you could sit down at the drawing board and design from the ground up sort of the ideal car share, low speed vehicle, what would that incorporate?
I think mechanically, there, the changes would probably be primarily the AC motors are a big improvement of the DC motors, but even with the AC motors, they need to be able to handle the hills a little better.
Okay.
The sense that the enclosure is a problem in the winter, and that the plastic enclosures that they make are really, we're not too interested in them at this point. They really just don't look like serious enclosures.
Right.
I mean, we'll probably try some, but we've just kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that in the winter we're just not gonna have a lot of business. Now,
right.
The interesting thing about Fayetteville, there's a lot of kids that ride motor scooters here.
Okay.
And in the winter, our attitude is, well, we're not as bad as that. I mean, at least we have a windshield.
Yeah.
And so,
exactly.
So we'll see what happens, but. What other changes? I would lower the roof. I mean, the roof height of these things is designed so you can get a set of golf clubs under them. We don't care about that. We don't need golf clubs.
Right. Right.
And so from a aesthetic standpoint, it looks kind of goofy, to have that tall. Looks like a golf cart.
Right.
And so that, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing lithium-ion batteries or some other, advanced batteries soon, which is going to also probably free up some space under the seats and be able to reconfigure those a little bit. And, just styling.
Two seats or four seats, which makes the most sense for you?
Well, I think it'd probably be good to have some of both, but we think two seats is in most cases. I mean, the vast majority of automobiles are single occupant vehicles now.
Right.
And which is crazy. I mean, when you think about it, driving a 5 or 6 seat vehicle in an urban environment by yourself makes no sense. It's like, wearing alpine hiking boots to cross the street, to go get a jug of milk or whatever.
Right.
And so. Ultimately, I think we're headed towards, on-demand type mobility services where you get whatever vehicle you need depending on what you're doing, and that's where we hope to go as well. We don't want to restrict ourselves to low-speed EVs, but we want to start with them because we think which is just a nice concept to start with,
right.
And especially for the urban environment, it meets most of the needs.
Yeah. So how about something like the Twizy, the Renault Twizy, which is. Yeah. That, to me, would seem to be a nice solution, although obviously I think they're introducing them in Canada, but I don't know whether we'll obviously ever see them here in the U.S.
Well, I don't know why not, but I mean, I think one of the things that I don't particularly care for them is the seating arrangement is it's single file, one in front and back. I like double, where you're sitting in a more, egalitarian or whatever you want to call it, side by side.
Right.
And but the Twizy is certainly a sexy looking car. It's nice, but and I think they are starting to bring them into Montreal. You've seen the Harico, I assume, the one that MIT developed.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, which the Media Lab there, and I'm not sure what this. Have you heard anything about?
Well, the last I heard is that the company went out of business. They started building them, and then I don't know what the whole story was, but they ceased production. So.
Well, those were incredible cars.
Yeah.
They were a little too complicated mechanically, probably, and a little bit too expensive, and I don't know, for whatever reason they didn't get it together. But so. We've sort of taken the low cost, at scale vehicle and trying to build from there.
So, I'm guessing that you're probably paying about what, $7-8 something like that for each one of those.
Yeah, on the upper end of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Because that seems to me that's about what they go for. So how replicable is this? How scalable is this? You mentioned that there might be some other cities that you're looking at.
Mm-hmm. We have some other communities that are interested in talking to us. I think it's scalable. I think every college campus has a parking problem. They all have a climate action plan that they at least have signed and hopefully are serious about.
Right, right.
And so, yeah, but of course, the problem that we have, is with most universities is that they also have the people that control parking make a lot of money off of parking. So,
yeah.
So it's sort of but I think it's scalable. We are talking to other communities, and we haven't been in business long enough to prove that it's a viable business yet, and it's going to be a challenge, like any startup. And if we're certainly we would love to partner with some communities that are willing to help us get a foothold, because it's like I said, it's a challenge. It's a startup business.
Yeah. Where do you need to be at to obviously break even and begin to show that this is viable? Where do you think numbers of rentals in a day or numbers of vehicles on the road?
Yeah. Well, we think we need to have about 40 to 50 vehicles in our fleet, and with a utilization rate of several rides a day to make and so.
So have you looked at sort of the model for most bike share programs is that they find some deep corporate pocket somewhere, here in Omaha with B-Cycle, it's Blue Cross Blue Shield. Out in New York, it was Citibank. Over in London, it was Barclays. Do you have to? Is that a model that might work, where you could go find Tyson's chickens? Might have you put a banner on the back of the thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's a very good point. I mean, bike shares are almost always subsidized. I mean, I don't know any of them that aren't, and Carshare is not so much, and we're sort of a hybrid. We're not a full-blown automobile car share. We're sort of a car-light car share, if you will, or kind of a hybrid between the bike share. And so, I think some level of subsidization may prove necessary. We don't know yet, but we're hoping that we get some people interested in helping us out, obviously. So.
Okay, great. Well, look, thank you so much for taking the time and talking about SUMO. I was really curious and excited to see somebody finally picking up on that segment of the market and beginning to do some exploratory work with us. So congratulations.
Well, thank you, Bill. It's my pleasure.
All right, very good. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.